ahead and get started. Welcome to Hack Employee Training webinar today. My name is Lauren from iorad. I am the Director of Education and Product. And joining me is Arlen. She will be manning the chat. And if you have spoke to her maybe in chat, or if you're a school, you probably have met Arlen already, so she's great, and she will be there to assist today. We'll go ahead and get started. As we go, feel free to place questions in the chat. If I don't get to them during today's webinar, we will send out the answers after the webinar in the recording, and we'll also send this presentation out with the hyperlink to tutorials as well. Today's webinar is focusing all about employee training. So iorad does offer a simple way to create and capture and share content across all your applications that you use on a day-to-day basis. So this can look a lot of different ways, whether you are using a desktop application or a web application, and you have processes to capture, you can use iorad for that. You can hook up our integrations, and so that allows you to quickly share your training throughout many places while having one centralized document to update. You also have the ability to quickly populate audio using our text-to-speech option, and you can lock down training visibility within your organization and blur out sensitive information. And then additionally, we also have the option to standardize a style guide, so you'll have your company branding across all your training. And last but not least is the being able to collaborate amongst your team of subject matter experts. They are the ones that know how the processes work, and so being able to pull them in is super crucial for building out employee training. So today's topics, we're just going to kind of briefly talk about some capture editing basics, but things that sometimes people will miss: format, styling, and player modes, internal sharing best practices, as well as team collaboration with brand consistency. So we'll go ahead and get started. So capture and editing, I'm going to assume that you have captured a tutorial. If you haven't, we do have tutorials on that. But assuming you know how to capture a tutorial, we're going to just start in the editor. And so I have a tutorial here ready to go out of the box. And so the first thing is I want to talk about adding an intro slide. This is a nice way that can make it really personal and humanize the training so that they can connect with the trainer. So let's go about showing how to add an intro slide. The first step is we're going to add a step. But prior to adding a step, you need something to pull in. So I went ahead and designed this slide in Canva, and then I pulled it into a Google slide. So this is what I'm going to add in as my intro slide. So what I'll do is click Add Step. I can then go to the tab with that slide, click Start. And now I'm going to right click on the tutorial, or on the extension, I'm sorry, and click Manual Capture. Now I can click Done. And now here, you'll see that my slide has been pulled in. It's on step 2. So I'm just going to go ahead and use the move step and move it to step 1. And now I can type in, welcome to how to perform the task. This marker has just been put up there. I can move it anywhere I want, and I can even make it transparent so that the learner won't see it in their player, only you're seeing it in the editor mode. I can also set it to auto advance so that way once the audio has been read, welcome to how to perform a task, it moves on. And now we are into our tutorial. So like I said, just a nice way to add a little personal touch here to your tutorial, and add a little flair to it. The other way that you might use the info option is, say, maybe on the first step, you don't want to add an intro slide and you just want to talk about like a landing page, a report page. You know, in this case, it's just my email. Here, I could duplicate this slide and then I can just get rid of this and change this to an info and make it transparent. And then I could say, you know, this is your email where you will send and receive emails, something like that. And so that way this marker is not going to show, it's just going to say, you know, show you this screen without the marker there, giving information. Next up is our type tool. This is super powerful, especially when you're going through scenario-based training. And so the way that works is you have this type area here. If you leave it blank, it'll look like this. And for the player, it'll just say type here. If I double click in here and I type in the word demo, then it would show as gray placeholder text. I could even validate that field if I want to make sure that the learner is typing in demo prior to advancing. Maybe you have account numbers that you want them to be pulling off the screen, account names, anything like that. And you can even make it case sensitive as well. So you have that option, or if you wanted to make it more generic, maybe I just type in label name, and that's just guiding them to type in the label name. Technically, they could type in 1, 2, 3, and it would advance them to the next step. It's not going to prohibit them from moving forward. So a lot of options and uses for the type tool. Next up we have is our audio feature. So once we go through and add audio, like so, I can, oops, all right. So I can actually adjust this if I want the text to be really simple. Maybe I just want it to say click labels in the editor. The learner is going to read click labels, so I can delete that audio, and then over here I can type in great. Now let's click labels as just a little bit more information, or just to sound more human, since it is a text-to-speech voice. And then the other use for this would be maybe you want to add a pause in, or maybe you have a number that's being read as 1,234 rather than just 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe a hard to pronounce word, anything like that. You have this option so that the learner is going to read the text that's in the editor, but you can kind of, you know, finagle this to make the audio sound how you want. Okay, and then the next one would be our masking option. So oftentimes with employee training, we don't have like a demo account or anything like that. So we're using our own application, our own instance of the application. So the nice thing with the mask content option is we do have the blur, pixelate, whiteout in our new pick a color. And so with the blur, again, you can just click and drag and hide that sensitive information there. It is permanent, so it would be, you'd have to recapture the screen if you made a mistake there. And it is also going to detect that area on other steps based on the pixel and pixel location. So I can go ahead and click mask all, and it will blur it out on all the steps. Same with whiteout and our pick a color here. It works kind of like an eyedropper tool. So I just click and pick that color, and then I can make things just kind of disappear magically by picking the color there. And again, it will give me that same mask all option. And add overlay is good for those busy screens that have a lot to take in. If you really want to just focus your learner to that area that you've highlighted, you can add an overlay color and the opacity right there. Okay. Next up is format styling and player mode. So oftentimes in employee training, you might share training different ways. You might be embedding it in an LMS. You might be sending links to people as they email you and have a question. There's a lot of different ways that people will use and share content. So kind of go into our settings here and talk about the different options. So under layout, this is where you can adjust those settings. When you're embedding it inside of a learning management system, you'll want to make sure you're adjusting the embedded player area settings for embedded player. And then I do recommend keeping the full panel. So what I mean by that is here.
This is your email.
This is the full panel. And so the full panel is what I recommend most of the time. Some learning management systems, you get a bigger screen space than others. But if you don't have a large screen space in your learning management system, I do recommend this full panel. If you are sending the direct link, then or your learning management system allows enough space, then for the direct player, you can use the minimize panel, and it would look like this. So this is going to never cover the click area. It will always move out of the way. And again, if this were full screen and you were sharing it via the direct link, it would take over the whole browser window, and it just really looks elegant. It's an elegant way to share the text and with the screenshot. We also have the only step text, nav bar, and hide everything, but typically with employee training, you want the text and the instructions there. So I highlight the full panel and the minimize panel for those reasons. Matching your brand is a big deal. So you want all your training to look and feel the same. You know, that can include the image zoom and making them all, you know, specific to, you know, if you want them all 0%, then you can set them all to 0%. That way people are used to seeing it at the same zoom level. And also the default mode, setting it to a default mode. I don't think that's as big of a deal, but maybe you have one mode that you want to use. Under the theme though, that's where you can then set your logo, your background image or color, your font styles that match your brand. And then the tool highlight color can change from one tutorial to the next. That one, maybe blue is perfect for one application, whereas the payroll system, you know, blue, everything's blue in the payroll system. So you don't want to use blue. So depending on the system, and you're probably capturing a lot of different systems for employee training, since there are so many that we use, you can adjust that highlight color to match or to contrast the application that you're capturing. And then as far as modes go, it's really up to you and your learners. You know your learners best. The modes that I see most used are the try, quiz, and watch mode. And everyone uses them slightly different. So sometimes people will embed the try mode first, or I'm sorry, the watch mode first, and then they'll embed the try mode. Maybe they'll embed the try mode and then they'll embed the quiz mode. It's really up to you and what you find that your learners like and learn best with. So with the try mode, let me go back here since I did that. There we go. Okay. So with the try mode, it's going to.
This is your email where you will send and receive.
There we go. Okay, so you're going to interact with the tutorial. You click outside of it, it's going to flash red. And then once you go through it, it's going to then advance to the next step. Notice that gray placeholder text, demo. And then there you go. And we're at the end. Now our watch it mode is like a video. So it's going to auto play on its own, just like a video would. And then your learner is just going to be watching it and they're not going to be interacting. And if I hadn't muted the audio, then you'd be hearing the audio.
Hands-free.
Then the quiz mode is under advanced modes. You can enable quiz. And now you're going to see the quiz option down here in the mode dropdown. So again, with the try mode, it's going to show that blue marker, click marker, and then the quiz mode, it would be removed. So now the click marker, the blue click is removed, and the learner has to think about where on their screen
Great. Now let's click.
They need to be clicking. And then at the end, you'll get your speed and your accuracy. This is more of a self-assessment type of tool. So you can get analytics on this. And if your learners are logging into iorad, you can get information on the learners area. But if you're embedding this in a learning management system without asking a knowledge check question or asking your learner to screenshot it, it would be more of a self-assessment tool. And then as far as the PDF goes, the PDF option is great. However, the thing to be cautious of is if you are using it for a software that frequently changes, iorad, of course, is not going to jump into anyone's computer and swap out their PDF versions. So just beware of that. If you are having people download the PDF, that you would need to update them or let them know there's an update out there. Otherwise, they're going to have an old version of the PDF. Sharing and privacy, again, if you are embedding this tutorial into a learning management system, the embed only option works really well. Even if you're embedding it anywhere else, you can choose the whitelist option and then add all your domains. So maybe you embed it in a learning management system, a knowledge base, internal, intranet, things of that nature, SharePoint. You can add all those domains here, and it would only be accessible from those domains for the learners that have access to that website. They're not required to log in to iorad. It's just they have access through the website you have embedded it on. If you are sharing it via a link, then the unlisted option would be the option to use for that. Now, you can also manually embed or publish with our integrations. So you can have one tutorial and then you can embed, either share the link here or embed it using any of our integrations in this list as well. So make a tutorial once, publish it many places, and update it only one time, and it updates everywhere. The next one would be if you are using the learning management system, but then you want in-time training. Something that works really well, we found, is when you embed this content in your learning management system as a course, you walk them through the process, and then when your person is in the application and they have a question of how to do something, then you can actually share it via the iorad extension using our auto domain share option. And so how that works is you would give them access, and then once you say they have a question on Google Slides, you click on the extension, and I'm logged in, so you'll see a bunch of other stuff here too, but these are all tutorials that have been captured on Google Slides. So that's how they would have access to, once you give them share access, then they would have access to all Google Slides tutorials. If it's a payroll system, they go to the payroll site, they click the extension, they have all these tutorials open and accessible for the payroll site as well. So it can be just super helpful in-time training after they've gone through the course, and then they're like, okay, I don't remember how to do that. They have the little helpful guide right there. If you don't have a learning management system, it's no problem. We have a web help center view that can kind of sit in the place as a quick, simple option. It's not a learning management system by any stretch. It's just a help center as it's named. But if you don't have one, then you have that option as well. So once I click complete and I come back to the dashboard, and you can click help center, you can create views per audience. So maybe you have, different departments that you want to create training for. Maybe you have you just want to make one view. You can do that. All we'll do is,
for instance, in schools, you might do administration, teachers, parents, students, or
right.
you could do it by course. So you have lots of different options the way you want to organize it.
So I'll just name it employee training. Click next. I can select all the websites that I want to include here. So I'm just going to include Gmail, and then I can choose tutorials or a category, subcategory, however I want to, select them. And I can also select by tags if you're using tags. So then I can click create view. Now I can copy the embed code, copy the URL link, and then I'll just open it here and see what it looks like. Like I said, you can share it via the link, or you can embed it inside of an intranet or anywhere like that. And it's just a quick and easy win to be able to access all your training tutorials in one place. They can search them and view the tutorials like so. If you are a Microsoft organization, a lot of our customers will embed that Help Center view right within their SharePoint, since that's a place that they're already used to going to find resources. So you can embed that Help Center right in a SharePoint page. As far as team collaboration goes, you have a lot of people in your team, and they are they're creating content. So it's really important to have things locked down and also, not be confusing. So if you have subject matter experts in there just to create content, I would recommend setting their view or their permissions to create only or create in team view. That way, their primary goal is to go into iorad, create the content, and then as the learning team, then you can kind of go in, clean it up, and work on the words and making it look as you want it to. So under the team tab, that's where you can then select your mode or your role. Create only, create in team view, create in team edit, or admin. And that way they will have the proper permission there. As far as locking things down, like I said, with a team, when you are collaborating within a team, it is important to set like a template and then lock those things so that no one's accidentally going to change them. And so you can go up into your profile icon, click account. As the owner of the team, you can click admin. And then here you have some lock options. If you don't plan on sharing your employee training with the world and making it accessible to find on Google, then I would recommend toggling the public option off, unless you want anyone else in the world to be able to view your employee training. But this is just going to ensure that the people on your team don't accidentally select public. So when you toggle that off, it won't even be an option. Additionally, if there is a privacy option that you want to choose, maybe the embed only option, you can go in, set that embed only option, and then just lock it. That way no one can change it, and it will always be set to embed only. So, and it works the same way for all of these. Same with theme, if you don't want anyone changing your logo or the background image, things of that nature. Okay. I've also put together some articles of interest here for you. So feel free, once I send this presentation out, to read through those. The Clippy one is referencing our extension and sharing the application knowledge right there on the website itself. And there's some really interesting information in there that you might find. And that is the end of today's webinar. Yes.
Go to the next slide while we do the Q&A.
Yes.
Okay.
So now, Arlen, if you have some questions, we can go over.
I was able to answer all the questions in the chat as they happened.
Okay.
If anybody has any extras or wants any clarification on any of the ones that got answered, there was the question about the adding a second or third highlight box. And I explained that you can in the text, if you have a text, you can add another box so that there's two things going on, but otherwise, no.
Okay.
Using that slide, you have to use it in the front of every single one. Say, for example, you've got multiple trainings. It would be kind of obnoxious to
Right.
have that slide up. That you can have that slide ready and put them in or not in any tutorials you want.
And those can be instructions instead of just intros. They could be instructions too.
Sure, that slide could be anything you want to put on that extra slide.
Yep.
Yeah. One of the questions was about masking. Can you mask, like putting something on top of it? I want an image on top of it instead of just masking it. And I suggested that using the PowerPoint, the same thing, the slide thing, go ahead and create that slide with the image you want on it, and then add that as a step in your tutorial.
Yep.
I think a really good question, and what I did for this one is I put in the feature request link, and I'll put that in again in the chat, and that will also be included in what we send. People wanted to know if you could have a font that's not currently used because you've got a special font. And I said, go ahead, put the feature request in. The more people who request something, the higher up it goes.
Yep. We do use Google Fonts. But we'll see if that's an option, if we can kind of do 2 libraries or an individual custom option.
Right. And then the last one was about can you get somebody to go directly to quiz instead of having them go to try it first? And I explained that, yeah, and I put the link in there how to do that, is just defaulting to quiz so that it will automatically open up in quiz.
Yes. Or you can send the link here, just change this to quiz, and then you can just send a link to them with that quiz as the option without making it your default.
Oh, good to know.
So, all right. And the same thing works with translations. You can adjust the parameter for the translation and send it in another translation as well. But we do have another webinar coming up. This is focusing on all the ways to share iorad. I only highlighted a few today, just specific to employee training. If you're using this for customer training or partner training, all the different types of trainings, school training, parents, teachers, all the options. That will be on the next webinar, just highlighting all the different ways to share and all the different options and how you might adjust those things for the different sharing techniques. If there aren't any other questions.
There was one more. Changing the logo.
Yes. So right under theme, this is where you can change, remove, or upload a logo. And it does need to be, I think it's a max height of 64 pixels, I believe, to make it look nice. So taller ones are going to scrunch it more into that space. So it's better to have narrow. All righty. Well, thank you for joining the webinar today on employee training. And I hope you guys have a good rest of your day and week, and we'll hope to see you all soon.
And I just want to say that, Kyle, thank you for pointing it out. I was answering these all along, and I had them not set to everyone. I had it set just to the presenters, but everyone is going to get the Q&A and this recording and a link to the presentation. So you'll get it all anyway. So oops, haha, yeah, I know. But it's all there now. Okay.
Yes, we'll send it out. We'll send it out when we send the recording. Thank you.